A unique glimpse inside royal life. Princess Diana's private chef is opening up, revealing what Diana was really like behind closed doors and in the kitchen. For over 2 decades, he stayed silent. Darren McGrady, the former royal chef who served Princess Diana with quiet devotion, says, "I'm Darren McGrady, the royal chef, former chef to the Queen, Princess Diana, Prince William, and Prince Harry." He watched from afar as history was rewritten and wounds were glossed over. He cooked for kings and queens. But it was Daneman who earned his loyalty and his silence. Now at 60, he's breaking that silence. In a move that has stunned royal watchers and enraged longtime supporters of the late princess, McGrady has finally spoken out. His words are not just reflections, they're revelations. At the center of it all is Queen Camilla. What Darren reveals about her has left the nation reeling and forces us to ask, what really happened behind palace walls? It all began after Darren McGrady's coronation comment. Darren McGrady's surprising coronation comment sparked backlash in the lead up to the highly anticipated coronation of King Charles III and Queen Camilla. By the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of my other realms and territories, King, defender of the faith, I do faithfully promise. Few expected a former royal chef, especially one famously close to Princess Diana, to weigh in. But Darren McGrady did just that, in an interview that stunned both monarchists and Diana loyalists. McGrady announced he would be celebrating the occasion. "Time has passed," he said. "I believe it's possible to honor the present while still cherishing the past." The remarks seemed balanced, even diplomatic. But the internet didn't see it that way. The backlash was swift. While some praised his ability to move forward, others called it betrayal. Diana's spirit will never be at peace if you cheer for the woman who caused her pain. One furious commenter wrote. Another added, "You are not loyal to her legacy. You should be telling the truth about Camilla, not raising a glass to her." For a man once seen as a quiet guardian of Diana's memory, the shift came as a shock. Darren's silence about Camilla had always been curious. Despite numerous interviews over the years, he had consistently avoided speaking about the woman once dubbed the most hated woman in Britain. And with good reason, Camilla's affair with Charles had played a central role in Diana's personal torment. Public resentment was still fresh in many minds. Even after a YouGov poll revealed only 7% of Britain supported Camilla ever becoming queen. Fast forward. And there she was, crowned queen consort in a ceremony watched by millions. "I supported the coronation," Darren reiterated. "That doesn't mean I've forgotten what Diana went through. It just means I've grown older. Perspective changes." Darren allegedly told a reporter after his interview went viral, but for many, his words were too little, too late. Yet, what the public didn't see coming was what followed. Just recently, headlines erupted with shocking revelations from McGrady about Queen Camilla truths he had kept buried for decades. Why now? Why speak after all these years? Many believe it was the backlash to his coronation comments that pushed him over the edge. Being accused of betraying Diana's memory may have stirred something deeper, an urge to set the record straight once and for all, whether motivated by guilt, grief, or a long-held promise to himself. Darren McGrady is finally telling the truth. The truth about Camilla's actions toward Diana is not softened by time. It's bitter, raw, and devastating. But before these public reckonings, Darren's journey with Diana began in the palace kitchens, long before the scandal or sorrow unfolded. Life inside the palace, Darren's early days, and his bond with Princess Diana. When Darren McGrady stepped into Buckingham Palace in 1982 as the lowest-ranking chef in a kitchen of 20, he never imagined that his life would become so closely tied to Princess Diana. That same year marked the birth of Prince William and the beginning of a quiet bond between a chef and a princess, one that would last through joy, heartbreak, and loss. Back then, McGrady's role was modest. "I was chef number 20 out of 20, he recalled. His early tasks were routine, preparing frozen vegetables for the palace staff, under the guidance of French chef Gabriel Chumi. McGrady learned not only how to serve royalty, but also how to navigate the unspoken traditions of palace life. Yet, amid all the formality, it was a young Diana who stood out. At Balmoral Castle, where the royals spent their summers, McGrady first encountered Diana in a surprising way. She would often stop by the kitchen in person, an unusual break from royal protocol, to ask for small snacks for herself or the boys' yogurt, orange juice, sometimes a piece of fruit. She always said thank you, Darren recalled. Sometimes she'd even help stack plates. Her down-to-earth nature, even in a dressing gown and barefoot, made a lasting impression. In those early years, Diana brought lightness and warmth to the palace. She laughed freely, danced at royal function, and created an atmosphere that softened the palace's rigid environment. McGrady always addressed her formally, but their connection grew deeper with time, shaped by quiet exchanges and her consistent kindness. Diana had little rituals, one of which was her nightly juice carrot, celery, apple, whatever she was in the mood for. But over time, McGrady noticed a shift as her marriage to Prince Charles grew more strained, largely due to his ongoing relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. Diana's appetite began to fade. One evening, she stopped requesting her usual drink, still concerned. Darren made it anyway. She took it in one gulp. He said, "She looked like she'd been crying." In moments like that, behind closed doors, McGrady saw the emotional toll the affair was taking on her. Before the press knew the full story, he witnessed the heartbreak up close. In 1992, the separation between Diana and Charles became official. Diana left Buckingham Palace and moved into apartment 8 at Kensington Palace with William and Harry. For McGrady, it felt like the end of an era, but not long after. He received a call that surprised him. Diana wanted him to be her personal chef. He didn't hesitate to accept. Life at Kensington was much more relaxed. The grandeur of Buckingham was replaced with a more personal, human environment, but the pain hadn't disappeared. The shadow of Camilla Parker Bowles still loomed large. McGrady even heard from palace insiders that Camilla had been thrilled by the separation. One cruel rumor suggested she told a friend, "He is officially mine. He always has been." Whether Diana ever heard those words or not, McGrady could see the weight she carried. Despite it all, Diana remained gracious. She never lashed out. Darren said, "She was hurting, but she was still kind, even on her worst days. She treated others with respect and warmth. That's what made her different. That's what made her Diana." As the months rolled by at Kensington, McGrady and Diana's bond deepened, and he began to see more of her struggles. At the center of it all was Camilla. Diana's private pain in Camilla's shadow. Despite the peace she tried to build at Kensington Palace, Princess Diana was still haunted by the wounds of her broken marriage and by the enduring presence of Camilla Parker Bowles. Behind the elegant walls and tasteful decor, moments of profound sadness continued to surface, witnessed only by a trusted few like Darren McGrady. One evening, as McGrady cleared the plates after dinner, Diana lingered in the kitchen. She wasn't there for food. She needed a listener. Quietly, almost as if confessing to herself, she said, "I've always known I will never be queen. That girl who took my husband will be queen someday." The words, though softly spoken, struck Darren like a bolt. He stood frozen, unsure how to respond, but Diana didn't need a reply. "Don't worry," she added gently, wiping away a tear. "You only had to listen." In that single moment, years of hurt, betrayal, and disappointment surfaced. Diana had long sensed that she would be sidelined, not just as a wife, but as a future monarch. The damage done by Prince Charles's ongoing affair with Camilla had gehued deeper than any tabloid headline could capture. Loud arguments between Charles and Diana had become a fixture of palace life during their final years at Buckingham. McGrady revealed that he often heard the tension reverberating through the walls, especially when Camilla's name came up. Why was this woman causing so much pain? He often wondered. The answer, he came to realize, was that Charles had never truly let go of Camilla, not even after marrying Diana. One of the most publicly humiliating moments for Diana came with the release of the infamous Camilla Gate tapes. The scandalous phone recordings exposed the intimate and explicit conversations between Charles and Camilla, igniting a media firestorm and confirming the rumors Diana had long known to be true. Though she never directly discussed the tapes with McGrady, her demeanor changed drastically in the days that followed. She became quieter, more withdrawn, and noticeably less interested in food. Her eating disorder, which she later bravely admitted to in public, worsened during these emotionally volatile periods. McGrady never intruded, never commented, but he saw it all. Diana's BBC Panorama interview with Martin Bashir was another defining moment. In front of millions, she bared her soul, saying, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." The world was stunned. For Darren, it wasn't new, it was validation. He had witnessed her silent suffering, and now so had the rest of the world. Her vulnerability and honesty in that interview cast a harsh spotlight on Charles and Camilla's affair, galvanizing public sympathy for Diana in a way no publicist or royal advisor could have achieved. Yet amid all the pain, there was also strength. About a year after settling into Kensington Palace, McGrady noticed a shift. Diana seemed at peace. She had begun to heal in small, powerful ways. She exercised regularly, embraced a healthier lifestyle, and focused more intently on her charitable causes. Most notably, she publicly addressed her battle with bulimia in a groundbreaking moment that encouraged countless others to seek help. She was the healthiest I'd ever seen her. Darren remembered. She was stronger, more radiant. Things were finally looking up. But the story was not destined for a peaceful resolution. Just as Diana began to emerge from the shadows, fate would deal its cruelest blow. The day Diana died, it was a quiet Sunday morning when Darren McGrady's world stopped, like any other day at Kensington Palace. The royal kitchen was humming gently with routine. Darren had prepared a light meal for Princess Diana, expecting her return from Paris later that evening. She was scheduled to reunite with Prince William and Harry before they went back to school. It was going to be a calm day, home-cooked food, family time, and a moment of normalcy amid the chaos of royal life. Then the television flickered with a breaking headline, "Princess Diana in car crash." Moments later, Princess Diana dead at 36. "I thought it was a prank," McGrady later recalled. "But it was on every channel. Then I knew it was real." The weight of the moment hit him like a tidal wave. Still in shock, he rushed into work, clinging to some impossible hope that maybe the news was exaggerated or mistaken. But when the palace faxed over Diana's last will, the reality set in, Mahisa. There would be no return, no quiet dinner, no comforting the boys. Diana was gone within hours. The mood at Kensington turned funereal. The staff, loyal to her, protective of her, crumbled. McGrady stood alongside them, gutted. "I had her meal ready. he said quietly. It was just sitting there, untouched. Her sudden death in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris, while being pursued by paparazzi, sent shockwaves through the world. The nation's mourning swelled in the days that followed. More than 5 billion people around the globe watched her funeral. Over 60 million flowers were laid at the gates of Kensington Palace by mourners. Elton John re-recorded Candle in the Wind for her, and it became the unofficial anthem of a grieving world. Yet amid the sorrow, another tension quietly brewed about who would and shouldn't be present that day. Rumors quickly surfaced that Camilla Parker Bowles had expressed a desire to attend Diana's funeral to pay her respects and perhaps soften public hostility. Some insiders suggested she hoped her presence might be viewed as a gesture of goodwill, a bridge to a future where she could be accepted. But Queen Elizabeth reportedly put her foot down, insisting that Camilla stay away. For McGrady, that decision was the only right one. It's a good thing she listened to the Queen and didn't go, he said. The world would never have forgiven her. People weren't mourning just a princess, they were mourning Diana. Camilla showing up would have been seen as disrespectful, like showing up at the scene of a crime you helped create. To McGrady and many who had loved Diana, the thought of Camilla, so closely tied to the pain Diana endured, walking behind her coffin would have been unbearable. The grief was still too raw, the betrayal too fresh. Diana's memory was still sacred. On the day of the funeral, Darren stood among the palace staff as the procession passed by. He had already visited Diana one last time at the Chapel Royal, where her body lay in peaceful repose. The quiet hush in the room, the weight of finality, it was all too much. But standing beside others who had worked with her, cared for her, and quietly admired her strength, he felt a flicker of peace, even in death. Diana had united the world not just in grief, but in love for her authenticity, her compassion, her vulnerability. The wedding Darren refused to attend on April 9th. Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles were finally married in a civil ceremony at Windsor Guildhall, followed by a religious blessing at St. George's Chapel. For many, it was a long-anticipated moment, a quiet legitimization of a relationship that had weathered decades of scandal. But for Darren McGrady, the day marked something else entirely. I didn't watch. I didn't go. I couldn't, McGrady later admitted. My thoughts were with Diana the whole day. By then, McGrady had left royal service and was living in the United States, running a successful catering company. Still, the royal world hadn't left him. He remained in close contact with former colleagues at the palace, many of whom had also served Diana. As the wedding approached, his phone buzzed with texts and emails. There was a shared discomfort among them, an unspoken understanding that something about the celebration didn't sit right. To McGrady, the ceremony felt like a final rewriting of history, a quiet erasure of the pain Diana had endured. They got what they wanted in the end, he said, but the cost was enormous. That day only reminded me of it. What struck Darren the most wasn't just the marriage. It was how swiftly Diana's memory had begun to fade within palace walls. He'd heard from former staff that Camilla's entrance into Clarence House and later Buckingham Palace had brought significant changes. Many of Diana's favorite charities were no longer prioritized. Some staff members loyal to Diana were reassigned or dismissed. It felt like a full reset, McGrady explained, as if the past needed to be tidied up, hidden away. It was in the midst of this quiet erasure that one memory surfaced with haunting clarity. Diana had once told McGrady, "I'll never be queen. That girl who took my husband will be queen someday." On the day of the wedding, those words echoed in his mind. Those quiet observations, stored for years in silence, would soon become the foundation for Darren's most explosive revelations about Camilla's role behind palace walls. She is pure evil. Camilla's erasure of Diana's memory inside the palace for years after Princess Diana's death. Darren McGrady remained quiet out of respect, grief, and perhaps fear that speaking out might only reignite wounds. But behind that silence was a storm of observations, emotions, and truths that had long gone unspoken. When he finally began to talk, it was Camilla's actions after Diana's death that stunned the world. In one of the most emotionally charged moments of his public revelations, McGrady, go ahead 3, described what happened after Camilla moved into Clarence's house and later Buckingham Palace. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly, but to those who had known Diana, it was unmistakable. Her memory was being erased. According to McGrady, the signs were everywhere. The soft, feminine details Diana had once added to her private quarters' pastel colors. Family photographs. Fresh-cut English roses began to disappear. Her favorite plants, like forget-me-nots and lilies, were replaced by Camilla's preferred arrangements. Furniture was shifted or removed entirely. It was like she was redecorating not just the space, but the narrative. McGrady said, it wasn't just about taste. It was about presence, Diana's presence, and how to remove it. But the most painful erasure, he said, was the handling of Diana's photographs. They used to be in the hallways, he recalled. Not just for staff, but for guests. Pictures of her with the boys. Moments of humanity. They were part of the palace. According to Darren, Camilla would frown whenever she walked past them. She didn't need to say anything. The message was clear. Within months of her moving in, the photographs were relocated first to less visible spots, then into private rooms, and eventually removed altogether. Only one remained, McGrady said, tucked away in a room not open to the public. And then, after about 3 years, that one vanished too. For McGrady, that disappearance was a breaking point. I was shocked, he said. I thought, how can someone be so threatened by a memory? It wasn't a woman anymore, it was just a photo. And even that was too much for her. That was when McGrady said the words that sent headlines blazing across the media landscape. She is pure evil. He didn't say it lightly, and he didn't say it for shock value. That's the first thought that came to my mind, he admitted. When I learned everything that had been done to erase Diana from the very home she helped transform, it made my stomach turn. It was cruel. It was calculated. To many within the palace, these changes were framed as normal updates, part of a new chapter. But McGrady and many who had known Diana personally believed otherwise. It wasn't just redecorating, he insisted. It was a statement, a deliberate move to replace everything Diana stood for. What made the changes even more painful, McGrady said Victinan, was the contrast between Diana and Camilla's energy. Diana made the palace feel alive, he said. There was a warmth in the halls, a kindness. You'd see her walking barefoot into the kitchen to ask for orange juice or slipping blankets into the boot of her car for someone on the street. That light, her light, was undeniable. When Camilla came in, that light went out. For years, McGrady said nothing. He remained in the U.S., building his catering company and quietly honoring Diana through charity events and public appearances. But the more he watched Camilla rise from private partner to Duchess of Cornwall and finally to Queen Consort, the more he felt compelled to tell the truth. I supported the coronation, he acknowledged, because I believe in moving forward. I believe in honoring the monarchy. Not just one moment in it, but moving forward doesn't mean we bury the truth. It doesn't mean we forget the king. McGrady emphasized that his decision to speak wasn't fueled by resentment. It was fueled by love for Diana and for the truth. I owe her that, he said, after everything she endured. The least I can do is protect her story, all of it, even the uncomfortable parts. His words struck a nerve, not just within royal circles, but around the world, for many. McGrady's voice gave substance to long-held suspicions that Diana's legacy had been slowly pushed aside in favor of a more polished, controlled narrative. For others, it was a painful reminder of how history often forgets those who suffer quietly. Public reacts to Darren's truth bomb. Darren McGrady's revelations sent shockwaves through the public within hours of his candid interview being released. Social media erupted in a firestorm of reactions. His emotional words gave voice to long-suspected feelings, especially among Diana's supporters who had spent years believing the late princess had been treated unjustly, both in life and in memory. Darren, thank you for finally telling the truth. One user posted, "You've said what so many of us have felt for years." Messages poured in by the thousands, applauding McGrady's honesty and loyalty to Diana. Many described his comments as a long overdue vindication, a rare insider confirmation of what the public had only imagined. But not everyone was supportive. Some questioned his timing. "Why now?" critics asked. "You celebrated the coronation and then turned around and said this." A few accused him of seeking attention or profiting off old wounds. Yet McGrady's supporters were quick to defend him. He was silent for over 2 decades. One fan wrote, "If anyone has earned the right to speak, it's him." Meanwhile, Diana's legacy was reignited. Old interviews, videos, and quotes were reposted across platforms. Fan accounts dedicated to her surged in followers overnight. The message was clear: the public hadn't forgotten the people's princess. And McGrady's words had reopened a wound that never truly healed. What's next for Queen Camilla? With Darren McGrady's revelations now echoing across headlines and social media, the carefully managed image of Queen Camilla faces its most serious challenge yet. For years, her public persona had slowly shifted from the other woman to a rehabilitated figure beside the future king. But now, with new light cast on her alleged actions behind palace walls, many are asking, what comes next? Supporters of the monarchy insist it's time to move on, that Camilla has paid her dues and earned her place. But McGrady's detailed accounts have reignited a firestorm, especially among Diana loyalists who never accepted Camilla's rise. For them, the crown she now wears is still tainted by the pain it took to obtain. Palace insiders remain tight-lipped, staying true to the royal family's never complain, never explain mantra. But silence may no longer suffice. Public trust is fragile, and the timing of McGrady's bombshells, so close to Camilla's coronation and Charles's reign gaining traction, couldn't be more critical. Some royal commentators predict the monarchy will simply ride out the storm. Others warn that Camilla's approval ratings, already historically lower than Charles's, may suffer irreparable harm. If McGrady's account gains more traction, it could haunt Camilla's queenship for years to come. As for Darren, he says he's not seeking revenge, only truth. What people do with it is up to them. He said, "I just couldn't stay silent anymore." With the silence finally broken, the world is watching Queen Camilla more closely than ever. Because once the truth is out, the mask can never go back on. What do you think about the story shared by the 63-year-old former royal chef has given the public a rare, honest, and deeply emotional glimpse into Camilla, one of the most controversial figures in the British royal family? After years of silence, his revelations not only shed light on little-known details of Camilla's everyday life, but also helped the public better understand the woman behind the glittering royal facade through the words of someone who worked closely inside the palace. Camilla emerges not just as a controversial figure, but as a complex woman with everyday moments, worries, joys, and sorrows that few truly understand. This doesn't just reshape public perception, It also raises important questions. Have we been fair in judging her? And is Camilla really the outsider she's so often portrayed to be? This story can be seen as a key puzzle piece, helping clarify a turbulent chapter in royal history. It also reminds us that behind the sensational headlines and cold press photos are real people with genuine emotions. If you found today's video insightful and valuable, don't forget to hit like, share it so more people can hear this perspective. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel. Coming up, we'll continue bringing you fascinating stories and untold secrets about the British royal family. Thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Shocking comments, thank you for watching. See you in the next video.